grasp your confidence and own your power. I love that.
Look around the room. You'll see that you're not so alone after all, and that unconfidence could look like any of us.
Maybe your whole life you have been told that the best wins, but I'm telling you right now that the best known will win. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in this morning. It's a lovely Monday morning. I'm in North Carolina. Where are you guys from? So this is actually going live. I would love it if you put in the chat where you're from, what city or state or country you're in, and what your favorite parts of the show are as we're talking, as I'm interviewing my next guest, Miss Sheila Jones. And Sheila is the CEO of Wicked Results. And I love that name. Sheila, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. It's great to be with you all today. So to answer the first question, I'm broadcasting from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but I'm originally from Annapolis, Maryland, and spent the majority of my life on the East Coast with a quick trip down to Arkansas to work for corporate Walmart. So just a little bit about myself. I've been in the food business for the majority of my career. I started as one of those young little kids putting pizza sauce on the pizza crust, and then eventually became a chef, and then got my degree in food science and worked for Nestle's, Campbell Soup, corporate Walmart in Bentonville, and then up here with the food company into the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area. But I started my own company a couple of years ago because I just had this feeling that I had more to deliver and more to accomplish in the world. And so I quit my corporate job and started Wicked Results, and it's been a journey ever since.
I love that. Wow. So much already to learn from this conversation. So first off, I want to say I'm a native Marylander, Sheila.
Ah, really?
Yes. And I used to love to go to Annapolis as a kid. If you haven't been, please go. It's just a quaint, historic town, and there's so much to do there and so much history, and it's just such a neat place. So we're lined there. I miss the crabs. Do you?
I miss them too. My family takes pictures of them and keeps saying, "You need to come down. You need to come back. You need to come home. Here's the crabs today." I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
I know.
They're gigantic.
They're gigantic. That's right. Well, I love this transition from corporate to entrepreneurship, and I talk about that a lot in this show because not a lot of people realize how much confidence it takes to actually make that leap and go into entrepreneurship. And, a lot of times entrepreneurs, let me know if this resonates with you, they're really smart. They're good at that thing, right? And they don't think about the confidence aspect of it, of putting themselves out there, of starting something new, of doing something scary, something different. It's not easy, Sheila.
That's right. It's not. So I think my first decision in making the move was, do I ever want to retire? And technically, I had been coaching people in the job space for about 20 years as sort of like I wouldn't call it necessarily a side job, but it was a passion for me to help people with their jobs. And when I started doing the coaching, I didn't realize, but every year I was like incrementally adding to the population of people. And I stepped back like sometime in about 2018 and maybe early 19. And I said to myself, wow, how many people have I really been connected to? And it was thousands. And by then adding up the dollar value to it, I had helped people increase their incomes collectively by millions of dollars. Like I was really like making an impact. And, when I began, I was focused on people in the food industry in particular, because that's where my core knowledge base was. But over time, I expanded into different fields, into different, majors, college majors, et cetera. I began to know those industries very, very well. And then I've helped people, everyone from interns to CEOs, work through their career advancement. So it's been quite a journey. In 2021, I went ahead and became a certified John Maxwell coach, speaker, and trainer. And that really gave a lot of dimension to my abilities, as well as my ability to interact with companies and individuals on a completely different level. So yeah, the confidence piece is like, some nights you go to bed and you think to yourself, oh my God, what did I do? And then you're like, oh my God, what did I do? I have the potential and the runway to do anything I want and impact the world in any way I want with the biggest magnitude possible. And then you got to wake up the next day and you got to do it, right? you got to get out of bed and do it. So it's awesome.
Wow, I love that. So here's another alignment. I'm also a speaker, right?
Yeah.
And talk about confidence. Again, I think a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, and they want to get into speaking, but again, just don't realize how much confidence it takes to step up on stage and to deal with sometimes ridicule as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's not easy, right? Everybody has an opinion.
That's true.
For better or worse, right?
Yes.
Some valid, some not, but everybody has an opinion. But one thing you mentioned that I want to hit on is that, you took these skills and you over time were helping a lot of people, and you started to see these results, and that started building confidence within you, right? And you started to see exactly how your knowledge that's helped you can also help others. And these repeatable things, right? And sometimes that leads to a business. That's certainly how it was with me as well. It's kind of interesting. But you're on a mission to help 1 million people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit more about that because, well, there's a lot of reasons why, but I don't think without speaking, we could get that. And that's
Yes.
another reason why speaking is so impactful and important. If we have these big goals like you, it's really hard to reach if we don't speak, right?
Yeah, I think that when I first was navigating in this space, I was functioning on a one-to-one basis, right? And coming through that, one of the very first goals that I set for myself was, how do I hit 100 people? How do I help 1,000 people? And when I was working at Campbell Soup Company, I had a process that I was helping with people and their promotability and their jobs and working in that space. But obviously the population of people were those at Campbell Soup. So then when I went to work at Walmart's a much bigger company. There's many, many people living in the Bentonville, Rogers, Arkansas area. So my ability to impact at a greater level was right in front of me, right? Like the runway was long. And I took advantage of that. I began this process where I helped build this thing called No Grow Move Wheel. And it had to do with knowing your job and really like doing your job very well, then growing your skill sets. What are those skill sets that are needed in leadership, in decision making, all of these aspects? And then once you've grown your skill sets, your objective should be to move. And why move, right? Why move? Well, one thing is you're in a seat that somebody else wants, right? So if we help each other by knowing, growing, and moving, the wheel of development, the wheel of potential gets bigger and bigger for everyone, right? Like I go up a rung on the ladder, somebody else takes my rung. Then they go up a rung, I go up a rung, we all go up a rung. And that way we're all helping each other grow and develop. And so it's interesting, when I came to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, the company I was working for was smaller. So I had to figure out a way to interact in the community differently. So I started volunteering for some veterans organizations and helping military individuals transfer into corporate positions. It's just grown into being this very, very amazing opportunity. But in March, well, actually in December of 2023, I finally put pen to paper. And I wrote this book called Wicked Interview Tips. And my nickname is AKA the job lady. So I had a couple of great editors helping me. Patty Stevens, she's based in Arkansas, and Nancy and Larry Kush, who are here in Lancaster. They've been very, very helpful and been the backbone of helping me get Wicked interview tips out. And we have a long journey ahead of ourselves, because I'm in this book. I challenge people to do amazing things, but I, on paper, challenge myself to interact, help, and impact 1 million people. So I'm on a journey right now to fulfill that statement and to fulfill that obligation, right?
I love that.
It's awesome.
Gosh, yeah, you brought up something else that I'm really passionate about too, which was, when we climb up the ladder of success in life, and we get to the top, we don't throw down the ladder from which we rise. That's not success, guys. And if you feel like you have to throw down the ladder and suppress someone else, that is not true success. And you know what? It's not going to be long lasting. True success comes from that collective effort. And when we start to succeed, you know what? Put your hand back, help somebody else. And it takes no extra energy and effort. And we should always strive for others to succeed, just like we want it for ourselves. And it's truly the golden rule, the platinum rule, that you want for others as you want for yourself. And that doesn't diminish your own success. That doesn't diminish your own wealth and growth. And it enhances it, actually.
Yeah, I think that I was talking with an ACP leader. Her name is Deidre, and she is with American Corporate Partners. And we were talking about the transition of military people. And in some ways, military people are very focused on getting corporate positions. And some military people are not. They have been electricians or plumbers or CDL drivers or all of these different jobs that are part of supporting the military infrastructure. And I said to her that uncorking the possibilities for unions like electricians and plumbers to mentor these individuals that are not looking for corporate positions, this is where some of the gold is, because they don't see themselves as a person who can mentor. I mean, largely speaking, they're like, well, I've been an electrician. I look at it as like, oh my God, you've been an electrician. You know how to do so many amazing things. You've been 30 years in this industry. You know it inside and out. Help this military person who is an electrician in the military transfer into maybe business ownership or joining a union or understanding how the world of work occurs when you are in the public sector. And I said to her, this is where the gold is. Like, you've got so many people in these associations and these union areas that can be very, very beneficial to the military person. Have them interact at that level, because that's where some of this gold lives, right?
Wow, so key. I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your book, because I'm really interested in it. How long did it take from start to finish?
Well, that's a great question. So to write it, I'll say that I'm not so sure it's the writing that took a long time. I think
Never is it?
I think it was the journey, right? I started coaching people in their jobs more than 20 years ago, right? So it's been this, long time in this space. But I think the funniest part was I came back from a business trip, and I made it the start date December 16th. So in a full court press, cleared my calendar, banging out all this stuff. I wrote the very first version, sent it to the editor, and then 5 minutes later told the editor, don't open that. That's not the book I want to write. I want to write the book differently. And so she was like, uh-oh, you know what I mean? Like, uh-oh, it's going to be a long journey, right? But It was
What
kind
did
of
you do to yourself?
it was kind of funny, right? Like I
Yeah.
poured all this heart and soul into it, and then I was like, boop, out the door. But the bottom line is I decided to write the book like I teach this content, right? So my first version wasn't how I teach it. It was more like 30,000 foot about job interviewing. But this book is designed to be quite a few different things. So first off, I made it small. I made it small so it can fit in someone's backpack, right? And I made it very easy to read. So there's a lot of activity that a person can do in it. But the bottom line is the book is broken down into two views. What does it look like from like a corporate hiring process? What does it look like from a candidate hiring process? Then I broke it down into the phases, obviously the preparation, the interviewing spot, and then the offer and acceptance. And I think it's important to educate candidates and to also educate hiring people what is all happening in the different spaces for each other, right? Because I get clients a lot and they're like, well, I interviewed on Friday and it's Tuesday and I haven't heard back from them yet. So then I try to explain to them, well, this is what's happening in the company. You know, they have to get a meeting together. They need to get all the feedback from everyone that's interviewed you. It's not going to happen in a day. Normally, it takes a few days to get that done. So just relax a little bit because it helps. When I say these things to the candidate, it helps their stress around the job process. It helps minimize that stress and keeps them in a very positive space for being able to interview.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that. So this is, really about just being brave, stepping into your power too, going after big opportunities, maybe opportunities that we wouldn't necessarily go after. Do you feel like you're able to, with your expertise, kind of help people become a little bit more confident, a little bit braver, maybe even apply to something that's maybe they wouldn't have before or wouldn't have considered before?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I do when I'm working with my clients is I spend a lot of time listening to what they've done. So I'll give you an example. I have a client right now. She's a recent graduate from a university, Oklahoma in particular, OSU. And in talking with her, she plays the clarinet. And she has an academic pathway and she has this musical pathway. And in this musical pathway, in talking with her and accumulating all the things that she's done and all the times that she's played her clarinet, she's played in front of more than 2 million people.
Wow.
She never thought of it to look at it from an accumulative standpoint. She was only looking at it in terms of I play the clarinet, right? But I'm like, hey, let's look at it from a couple different ways. You go into these football stadiums, it's a lot of, cameras and a lot of activity and a lot of energy and obviously a lot of stress, it's a lot of stress. So here you are out in this field and you're managing this musical section as well as walking with your instrument, you're playing your instrument. I mean, I would be falling down on the ground, tripping over everything, it's not a good space for me, right? But here she is with all this confidence. She's able to direct the people that are part of her team, play her musical instrument, show up on TV, do it week after week after week. And oh my gosh, more than 2 million people she's played in front of. That was a discovery moment that really pumped her confidence about her ability to be, in the public eye, being able to present in the public eye. Like it was this moment of like, oh, wow. Hey, maybe I'm a little more confident than what I thought, right? So by just being able to unearth that and discover that with her, her confidence went straight up. And so now she's like looking for these particular jobs that marry this ability to be very extroverted and in a high activity with people, which would not have been discovered had we not figured that out with the clarinet piece. So yes, that's like great to see that when it happens with a client, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, I've experienced that too. And mostly with women, I feel. But it's across the board. But I feel like most mostly with women. It's an undervaluing of a skill set, expertise, or experience. And I see that a lot where the same exact thing exists. They don't understand the cumulative aspect of it. And really, when we start to, you know, add these things up of what we've really accomplished, because it's easy to get downtrodden. It's easy to get, wrapped up in negative thought processes. But when we really think about what we've accomplished and how far we've come in life,
Yeah.
and, putting that to paper and saying, no, no, we actually did this, that imposter syndrome kind of starts to know its place a little bit more. Don't you think?
Exactly. Exactly. I think like it's interesting because I feel like sometimes when people are looking for jobs, they don't know when to take the next level. Like they don't know when to do that. And I think that by talking with them and really accumulating what they've done, they then digest that and they're like, wow, like I never thought about that. Like the magnitude, the impact, the contribution, right? And when they start to embrace that for themselves, there is a confidence shift, right? There's a confidence shifts. And you can see it immediately how they look, how they feel, how they start talking about themselves and being able to really, really get that information out. And that's one of the reasons why I named my company Wicked Results, because it's really like, what has been the result of you contributing to this company? What has it really been? What's been the result of you being a band member at OSU University for four plus years? Wow, the result is you've played in front of more than 2 million people. That's amazing. That's really amazing, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. It's one of those things I had to kind of tell myself as I was transitioning to full-time entrepreneurship. I actually thought about it and put kind of, pen to paper and said, okay, this is what I have managed. This is what I've done. And when I started doing that, I realized, okay, I was running a 9-state territory. I was in charge of, at any point in time, 18 to $20 million in inventory. I had a less than 90-day cycle on inventory. So my inventory was coming in, it was going out. It wasn't stationary, right? And I was thinking, well, my customer satisfaction is also incredibly high. I'm getting all these businesses. I had a sale. I had this and that and the other. And you start to think about that and not being humble about it. Come on, put pen to paper and say what you've actually done. And then ask yourself, if you are looking for another role or if you want to start your own business, if I did it once, I can do it again. And just tell yourself that, right?
Right. I love that you said that. If you've done it once, you've done it, you can do it again. Because I went on a job interview years ago and I said, I am pretty confident that I can turn this around. And they were like, well, why? And I said, I've done it multiple times, right? I took one business and doubled it. I took another and 5x'd it. I doubled our profits. I've done this, I've done that. And I'm not saying that every business runs the same and that every step on that journey is going to be the same. But what I would say is that if you've done it once, there is a high potential that you can do it again, right? And you just need to know, what the business is. You need to know how it runs. You need to know what is the obstacles, who's the potential customers. You need to know that every time when you come up to the plate, you're not going to hit a home run. You're probably going to strike out more times. And having that confidence and knowing that you will strike out, like not every customer that you interact with is going to buy from you or you will buy from them. But there is a high probability when you keep going that you will be successful. Like you will find your right customer base. And I will say this, like many years ago, I joined a food company. I was responsible for the ingredient division, and we had been a non-profitable division. And I remember when I took over, I said, there's been no business that I've ever run in which we were not profitable. And this is not going to be my first, right? Like this is not going to be the first time that I run a business that's not profitable. We will be profitable. And I remember people looking at me and they were like, how can you be so sure? And I said, because that's what we're going to do. Like, we're going to make this thing profitable. And I remember thinking when they were saying that their mindset was, we'll never be profitable. And my mindset was, we're destined to be profitable, right? It was just really in my mindset, and being able to put that positivity in, and then being able to steer the ship till we hit profitability. And truth be told, we hit profitability in 18 months, and the business had been not profitable for years. And being able to get that momentum and just stick to the positivity of everything allowed that to happen. But it also required us to not make excuses. It also required us to be accountable. It required us to be responsible for our outcomes, the good and the not so good, and to say, man, that we blew it on that one. We should have done this. Let's do this, right? Let's figure out what we need to do in order to make that happen. Success for everyone, right? So that was really like some moments where you got to build your confidence. You got to build it for yourself, but you also have to shoulder it for others until they have the same level of confidence that you do, right?
Absolutely. So true. And that's why responsibility is the second part in this acronym GRASP.
Yeah.
Because you have to have radical responsibility of your life, whatever that is. If you're telling yourself, I can, you're going to be right. If you're telling yourself you can't, you're also going to be right. It's having the responsibility of that ownership mentality of whatever, course of action you're taking, that it's one of growth, that it's one of, boundless potential instead of limitation, because we can put ourselves in our own boxes all day long. Last time I checked, we sure can.
Right.
But does it serve anybody? And the answer is no, Sheila. It's that victim mentality. We have to, in order to bridge and go from victim to victor, the key is the responsibility aspect, right?
Yeah. And I'll just share this because I say this every once in a while, and it's kind of a funny thing. I like to eat right. I like to exercise. I need a certain amount of activity every day to just kind of keep my blood flowing and my joints moving. But every time I go to the grocery store, I have a choice to eat better, right? And sometimes when I look at the grocery cart, it's like, wait a minute, what am I doing here, right?
Yep.
I've got one green vegetable and 20 of something that's not good, right? So I tell people my friends say this to me a lot. They're like, so what have you been eating lately? Because it's always a funny joke, right? Because I was a chef for a long time. So I'm like, yeah, broccoli and we're still dating. And they're like, what does that even mean? And I said, I buy it. I love broccoli. I put it in the refrigerator. And I open the refrigerator and I stare at it, and then I shut the door, and then I go down and get a sandwich from the restaurant down the street, right? Or wings or something. And I keep saying to them, I'm dating broccoli. Sooner or later, I'm going to marry broccoli, which means I'm going to eat it on a daily basis. But it's kind of funny. Like, you look in there in the refrigerator and you see the broccoli and you're like, I intended to eat it, but I'm not. And that just goes back to how committed am I to the result? Like, do I really want to eat right, or do I want to sprinkle in some candy and vegetables every once in a while, right? So it goes back to the responsibility. And I often say to people sometimes, if you want to know about your responsibility level, look at what you're throwing in the trash every week. The lettuce that you buy, the broccoli that you intend to eat, and then you throw it in the trash. And so there goes the commitment, right? If you're not eating that broccoli, it's a question on where your commitment is in totality, right? If you don't eat that broccoli, are you really like just not doing what you're supposed to do in every aspect of your life? So I try not to have the broccoli in the trash can every week, right? Like, I try to eat it.
And it's like, how does it go unseen? Sometimes I'm like, when did I get that broccoli? It's funny. But no, I totally relate. It's so powerful, and in order for us to accomplish any of these goals that we have in life, it doesn't matter what these goals are, folks. If our goal is to eat healthy and lose weight and exercise, if our goal is to improve our mental health, if our goal is to get another job or start a business or have a happier family life, we have to take radical responsibility of our choices and then pair it with action, right? We have to pair it with action. So it's not enough for us to think things. We also have to do the things. And I don't think anybody ever said we have to know every step of the way in order to get the result. But what we do need is small, positive, compounding choices that over time lead to dramatically improved, potential, right? I think that's the key to success is just those small incremental changes that over time compound, just like you would have compounded interest in the bank.
Right.
It's the same exact thing. It's that compound effect. And those small habits stack up tremendously over time. And it doesn't have to be huge and dramatic. It's replacing a soda with water. It's replacing coffee with tea and so on. But yes, Keith is here. I wanted to give Keith a shout out. Hello, my friend. Love the idea of taking radical responsibility. Absolutely. I'm a huge, huge advocate in that. Because until we take radical responsibility of our lives, of our decisions, we're always going to continue to feel like we're having that same result. Right, Sheila?
That's right. Like the broccoli will always end up going in the trash can on Sunday if I don't take the needed steps to eat the broccoli, right? And the great part about broccoli, I'm just hanging on that for a second, is you can eat it raw or you can eat it cooked. So really, there's really no excuse for me not to eat that broccoli. It's not like, oh, I got to cook it. It's like, oh, no, I can eat it raw. But then it's like, oh, okay, now it's real now. I got to eat this broccoli. But it's the same thing with my business every day, right? Like I get out of bed and I have goals for my business, 1 million people. Well, that's only going to happen if I get out of bed and point myself at it and slowly or rapidly find ways to impact large populations of people. So I'm on a hunt right now for, an opportunity to talk in stadiums or auditoriums or, where I can collect a large population of people so that I can produce this training and have this training, be available at a larger scale so that I can reach that million people for sure.
I love that. Again,
but it starts with the broccoli, right?
That's right. Small compound effects, right?
Yeah.
If you want to look good on stage, you should eat some broccoli. You should eat.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. You don't want to look back at videos and say, "Oh, I wish I would have eaten more broccoli."
Less candy, more broccoli, right?
Less candy, more broccoli. That's right. Or in my case, chocolate. But yeah,
exactly.
I loved this conversation, though, Sheila. It was so much fun, and I know I gained a lot of value from it. My top takeaways from this conversation were, in order for you to have change, you have to have responsibility mindset. You have to take an ownership of your daily choices, habits, and outcomes. But then too, we also should dream bigger. Sometimes the reason we fail is not because we're not good. It's not because we're not smart or talented. Sometimes it's because we didn't aim higher than we really were capable of or should have. And then the other thing that I learned was to document your results, folks.
Yes.
Be proud of them. Stop being so humble. Put pen to paper and say, you know what? This is what I've done. And I can do it again.
Yeah. I mean, I think that when I brought out in this recent graduate that over the course of her musical time, she had played in front of so many people, like the Rose Bowl, and she was on TV and all these things that were very, very small in her mind. Like they were, and I think, let me just say this for a second. I think that when people are busy in their lives, the things that they're doing, they don't take stock to the magnitude of them or the accumulation and then the magnitude. And by piecing that together for this individual, Like her confidence was, it just went off the charts. She was like, oh my gosh, like wait a minute, if I played in front of 2 million people, then I can do this job. And I'm like, oh, absolutely.
Yep.
You can do that job and quite a few other ones, right? Like quite a few other ones. So I think it's taking stock, it's documenting, it's acknowledging, but it's also as an individual digesting what you've done and owning what you've done and being proud of it and then being able to talk about it, right? Like I think that's very, very important for people to be able to say, and it's humble, right? It's humble in this space. It's not like, I spoke to 2 million people. It's like I had the opportunity to play this musical instrument in front of 2 million people. And it's like very different feeling when it's a humbleness and a statement of, I wasn't paying attention, but look at what I accomplished, right? It's like amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of people out there that could benefit from this. So I encourage anybody that's listening to this show right now to do exactly this. Take out a piece of pen, take out a paper, and start writing down all of the amazing things that you've done and congratulating yourself, and then asking what's the next step? What else can I do? What can I do that's even bigger than something I imagined? But I loved it. Thank you so much for the fantastic interview today, Sheila.
Yeah.
And thank you for everyone who tuned in today. I encourage anyone listening to the show to share this information with their networks, with their friends, with family, because we never know who may need this personal development and professional development information that could actually help them in their careers or lives. Sharing is caring. So share these episodes with your networks and keep this conversation going. But
Yes.
we love our listeners. Please don't forget to leave a review, because we can only grow as big as the reviews. So please, folks, leave a review with your comments on this show. But Sheila, I appreciate the fantastic interview today, and I know this will be the first of many conversations.
That's it. Awesome. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye now.